I think it's interesting to sort of look at this as an exploration, as an investment of curiosity into a particular era and time in your life, and when it converges with a particular artist's life, whether they're dead or alive, you like a particular period of that. And I think that's thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And one of the things I'd like to comment on about your collection, dare I say, is I really love the fact that you play them and see them as something that is intended to interact with. You know, you showed me your first Ergon guitar earlier, and it's very clear. It's not played a little bit. It is worn away in areas through the finish and such, and you can tell a little bit about the techniques in which you play, because you can see where you engage with your guitar.
Welcome to Life with Strings Attached. I'm your host, Jamie Gale. In this episode, I'm sitting in the home of Lou Vergne for a very special collector-focused conversation, one that isn't really about collecting at all. It's about relationships with instruments, with the people who make them, and with the experiences that give those objects meaning. We talk about discovery over acquisition, use over display, and why definition can sometimes feel like confinement. Lou shares what it means to live with guitars rather than to simply own them, how curiosity guides his choices, and why the stories behind an instrument matter just as much as the sound it makes. This is a conversation about care, discernment, and the quiet joy of letting instruments find you. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Lou Vergne, and I hope that you do as much as I did.
Lou, thank you for having us in your home.
You're very welcome.
Over the years, I've really enjoyed the little bits of time I've had a chance to spend with you and your wife Susan, who's a wonderful person who's always by your side also, and Roberta, my wife, is the same. You know that, and so there's a camaraderie for those of us who are still fools in love with our our partners, and you know, it's great to be here in your home and to see those little bits of character that you pick up from people and the things, your experiences that are displayed throughout your home, the choices you make, you know, and when we've looked at something here, you know, there'll be a little bit of a memory. I'll say, oh, I think that was Santa Fe, right? We got that, and it's your shared life together, and so I always think of you two together, because frankly, I don't know that I've ever encountered you when you weren't together.
No, because the times it was either for the tours or for the at NAMM, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of any other opportunities, and those, you know, were part of the show, and as we got to know each other, you know, we got to be more closer, but at the same time, there's always the distraction, right? And you're working, you know, and I'm there is kind of an interruption, so to speak. Right?
You're a client, you know, and not a direct client, but you're part of the client group.
Right. So you only have so much. You only have so much opportunity where you need to focus on. And I understand that, appreciate it, and having an opportunity like today, and what we're looking forward to was hopefully that opportunity in Italy was to be able to basically just relax and not have that, you know, that extra on it. And so, I'm enjoying this time, you know, myself and Zach and Roberta immensely. Yeah. Look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of the things that I often try and express to people who are maybe slightly outside of the community at times, who are trying to see, do they want to be a part of this thing that's happening or not, which is what happens at our tours and our events, is there are people who came there because they're very into boutique guitars and unusual guitars. And there's other people who came because it's a guitar show at their local guitar store, who are like, what are these things? And is it a guitar? Isn't it a guitar? And then, the great gratification, of course, is the, not to put it in too much of a religious context, but the conversion experience, to see someone like connect with it and go, oh, wow, this is far more meaningful and far deeper than I realized as to what's happening here. Because, when we look at these guitars that we have in the Boutique Guitar Showcase, it's not, these are expressions of a person's life. It's not a brilliant business decision to make this guitar. It's someone's passion and obsession, often an idea, a theory that came together, and they explored it, and we get to view the results of it. And so when you look at these instruments, you really can't separate the maker from the product or the craft. In the
Absolutely.
end, it's the maker, the craft, and the result that you're experiencing all at once. And so to once we're together, what's difficult to explain to people, not difficult, what I often try to explain to people is that when they look at the guitars, like, these people they're my people. I've sat at most of these people's dinner tables. I know their kids. I know their dogs. They know my kids. They know my wife. We live life together in a way. And so having this time to come here and to now see the instruments that I know that you care for in the context of your home and where you interact with them and how you display them in your home and how you've cared for them, how you've curated your own guitar experience. To curate literally means to care for. It means to care for the object, the space, the experience, and you have curated your own experience of your instruments. And that's lovely to see. And so you have a particular collection of Ergon guitars from Adriano Sergio. Did you consider yourself a collector of guitars before that? Because I know you had many other instruments, but where did the point happen where you might think about, I'm actually a collector, or I'm invested in a particular type of guitar or a particular guitar maker or something? So.
Well, I was talking earlier, or thinking earlier, the idea of being a collector is almost a negative connotation for me. It almost seems like, because a collector is kind of to be defined as defined. That's the thing. Maybe that's where the negative aspect. Me personally, I don't like to be defined. I don't like to define people, but I certainly don't want to be defined. I like to be my own and all. But at the same point, coming back to collecting, it's more, I would say that earlier, I would collect guitars for the type or for the style and so on. It would be multi-type, but now we're talking about Adriano's and Ergon. It was more that the discovery at I forgot what year it was. It was probably about 8 years ago, I think. I was going to look up the
Rainbow
year.
Guitars in Tucson.
It was Rainbow in Tucson.
It was probably 2017 or 18.
It was
I imagine. Yeah, this is 2025 now, so we're 7-8 years ago.
7-8 years ago, whenever that was, the discovery of that is just a extensive impact, and that then I saw at that point I didn't know it, Adriano, just looked up on the website about him, what was important for you and such, and then started looking at his stuff online and whatnot. Didn't have much going on there, but then he showed there was the one he was building, the Porto, which he was building for the EU tour, and I was really loving the way that was looking and such, and feeling it, and just having the experience with the one. I thought that'd be awesome to see, and so I was contacting him about it and whatnot, and then eventually that came to the show in NAMM the following year, and he had at that point we were going back and we've connected, and we've connected so deeply. It's over the time. It's been we know so much about each other before we met because of going through this. And then he was building another one called the Coimbra, was a new model, and it was the Coimbra Mondego, because he names them after the regions and the rivers and whatnot to there. But he built this one, and it was blue, and it was during a blue moon. And so we're huge on the blue moon. There's a lot of connections that we have relative to with that, but it was like this is really connecting, and so he Coimbra Mondego, then he added Lua to it for lunar, for the moon. So that those two came to the NAMM
Boutique
show.
Guitar Showcase. Yeah.
Right. And the intent was to take a look at the Porto, because he had it there. And that was like, and he also had the bass there at that time. And so played them both, and they're like, it's like they're just playing phenomenally. Everything's all different. Not the Lisboa, but they're all completely different. But I was really stricken by them, and then also the connection with Adriano, and so I ended up purchasing both of them. Instead of, the plan was to one, but it was like, the story, the connection behind the Mondego, the Coimbra, and then there was one little thing that I didn't like about it, and we had switched on it, and it's like perfect. So that started that motion. So that's three, right? So, and then Harvey, who's the proprietor, the owner of Rainbow Music, one of the first when we met there, he had purchased from that tour the bass. So that bass was at that first. No, I don't think it was at there, but he must have. No, or he might have picked it up from the NAMM
show, maybe. Yeah,
I think that's where he got it.
I don't remember selling him a bass.
Yeah, so he probably got it from the NAMM show.
We had it on tour,
which was at that tour, and so he had that there, and I thought that was great, And so at one point he had it. I guess it hasn't sold, and he marked it down, and I'm looking at it, and like, it's kind of like, it's like when you see if there's a puppy or a cat in the pet shop, and they've got them in the markdown section, like what's next. And it's not a good story, and I'm like, I hate to see, what's going on. Yeah, that's going to be crazy. So I end up buying it because we loved it, but I'm not a bass player, but I could play bass.
Sure.
So that was more of a heart and more of a support thing, but it's a fantastic bass, so I use it and play, but not consistently.
Adrian's a trained bass player.
Yeah,
he's educated. He went to university for jazz bass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so this isn't his first bass that he built for himself. He built like a traditional, precision or jazz type of bass.
Yeah.
But this was the first one of his own bass.
Its own style.
And so again, that's another one thing. Okay, it's the first one. Currently at that time was the only one. And he had made the pickups and everything else. So there's just so much uniqueness to it. So, that's part of the structure of the value of the story is in there. The total uniqueness of it, and how much of it is in there, and so that acquired that. So that's 4.
Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop is your premier fretted instrument custom case maker, and we invite you to create a musical instrument case unlike any other, one that's unique to you. Every Cedar Creek custom case is hand-built by highly skilled craftspeople using only select woods, Providence Forge hardware, and premium instrument-friendly materials. At Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop, we are dedicated to helping you design the case of your dreams. Find out more at cedarcreekcases.com.
And then we were over there and with his shop and such.
In Portugal.
We went over.
In Lisbon?
Yeah, we went over to the for the tour de France.
Okay.
And then spent a couple of days in San Sebastian after that, which was fantastic. And then met up with Adriano in Porto.
Okay.
That's where Ava is at Porto. So
good.
we met in Porto,
Yeah.
and we stayed in Porto overnight, and he was there with us, and then he drove us down, and we went through Coimbra and went to this one monastery. It was a fantastic road trip coming down, but he was he really touring us, and so we stayed in Lisbon, underneath the is it a castle, the top of the hill in Lisbon?
I don't know. I've actually always blown through Lisbon. Sorry, I've seen a bunch of things there, but I don't
Oh
know
my
the city
God,
very well.
it's such a tight city.
Yeah.
But we were in there, and then we went to his shop, which was fantastic because it was this little, unassuming. Have you been to that other shop that was in
The
Lisbon?
one in Lisbon. Yes, but it was on a layover. He literally picked me up from the airport. We went to his shop. We had lunch. Back to the airport.
Yeah. Okay. So we went there and he had garden. So we had, and Susan, we had picked some vegetables out of his garden there, and we had a fantastic salad dinner with that. That night. It was like the best. Because it's tough to get salads and stuff in the cities.
Salads are a North American invention.
Is it?
Yeah, if you're in Italy and you see a salad, the restaurant is made for North Americans.
Oh, okay. I'll have to avoid that.
Tuscan women pick up the bone of the veal Fiorentine and they chew on the bone like it's not normal.
Oh, wow.
To eat salad. It's actually for me it's actually very refreshing to watch and see everyone eating the same thing and not to see this divergence between
Interesting.
men and women and what they're going to eat and such, but
Okay.
anyways,
So.
greens year round are unusual.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So we're in the shop, and he was leading up to prior to being there, wanted to make me a guitar. Basically, one for me, and and we'll create it. And so kind of created the profile similar to the Lisboa profile, was modified differently and whatnot, and picked out woods and all. And actually, we drew it right there in the shop, because he's old school, which is perfect for me. Everybody, and then took the wood selected the wood, and did the bandsaw. Worked with that a little bit with him and stuff like that, and then we so he built it, and so that was the Sagres LV, because he usually has the initials of the direction it's going. If he's building it for a client, if you see something, one of his the names, and there's just 2 letters at the end, that's because that's for a direct client with their initials. Anyway, he built that and it plays fantastic. That's the one. So that's 5.
Mm-hmm.
But that also is kind of fortified. You talk about collections and acquiring things, and whether or not you are acquiring an instrument based upon experience, feeling it, playing it, and whatnot, or based upon someone else's ownership of it. You know, there's maybe the historical evidence or whatever for it, or basically, you know, out of online or in an order, right?
Yeah.
You know, without, you know, just basically like pre-order type of thing. And I've, over time, and this basically has even solidifies it to date for me, is that you could put together your list of ingredients that all quality ingredients or whatever, and what is quote unquote known to interact and work well together, and doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to it'll based upon the usually the craftsman, the maker, the luthier, it's going to be of a quality, you know, exceeding quality, you hope, right? It's going to be consistent with the rest of it, because that's your expectation as well. And so if there's finishes, you know, if you're looking for finishes or whatever for certain things, or depending on what you perceive as, you know, everybody's got a different perception of quality and likes. So you put together these ingredients, and you've got this great chef. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be getting the meal, because it's a one-off. Doesn't necessarily mean that everything I wanted is in that. And so and I've done that with, you know, you look at things and you think you know what you want, or you think that's going to be great because this and that, and then when you get to that, you experience it can fall short sometimes. Sometimes it exceeds. It's like, wow, this is even better than I imagined. My experience is that most of the time, when you have an expectation of exhilaration, you know, thing, it's a forced one. It's kind of like, you know, you're going to go in and it's not making you laugh, so you make it laugh because you want it, you know, and you kind of force yourself into believing that it's this great thing. But do you go back to it? Does it drive you back? Does it make you want to stay with it? Versus others. And so I've never said this, and I haven't told this to Adriano, but that one, well, I've expressed. I'm point blank. I'll tell him when he's always asked. He asked me if it's my opinion on things. When I'm direct, I'll observe, and I can see the little touches he puts in to the instruments, and he's like, wow, you know, I can see that. I can see where he's going. But I struggle with this one because there's certain elements of it that just don't give me the magic. It plays fantastic. It's more of the sound, and we went through 3 different pickups on it, and all. And there's a certain character and all that. It's a very focused character, so it's very, I want to say, limited in the sense of where I feel I enjoy it. it's still a great guitar. Like I said, it plays great and like that. But I look at that a little less, and so that fortifies my belief about having these instruments find me and discovering them versus trying to
commission one. Yeah.
And all. And so then that's 5 of. So the 6th one was one that there was this is when Michael and Uli had the Red exhibit.
Yeah.
And he had a guitar there, which is probably, I would say, his most conventional electric. And that it's the BT. BT, this was called the BT Lusso. And that was his first electric, was the BT, starting because he had done repairs for this one gentleman before it had issues and he had built this one, but this guy had cancer. But it was a BT back in the time, which is basically best way to describe it is his version of an SG. So with just 2 horns, if you want to call, slab, and almost a full neck type of thing. So it's closest to that. That's the closest way I could describe it. But it had conventional pickups in it, versus his normal, wood blocks that he sculpts and everything. So this is as close to conventional, but not when you look at the rest of it and everything else. So anyway, that was at the show. I really enjoyed playing it. Played fantastic and great, And then, so that would be like 2 years later, he was still, I could see it hanging up in the shop and everything like that and all. And then this is one point where it was off to, someone was playing it but didn't buy it. And he had put a couple of dings in it and everything. And so eventually, he kind of we kind of made an agreement, and so I bought it. And it's been great. It's fantastic. It fills a niche for me in playing. So that's one of the ones that I go to a lot as well when I want to play. And so that's 6 of them, all different characters, all Adriano, but that one, Susan and I were talking about the fact that we caught Adriano early on, and it's artists and so they go through periods, right? And so their designs evolve, or they go a different direction or whatever, and sometimes you're not as smitten in that phase, and then maybe on another phase or whatever comes down the road, and all. But the ones that we predominantly have connected with were during this phase, and noticed that the other phase, and so.
The artistic term is an oeuvre. It's a body of work that's contained, and so you were drawn to one particular sort of oeuvre of his.
But I would have to say that, okay, so now that's a collection, right? That's 6 of them. What is 2 a collection? Is 3? What defines a collection at some point or anything? And then what defines the point when the reason that you acquired them and were attracted to them, you don't want to dilute that. You want to maintain that. And so he's hopefully going to keep continuing, moving on, making more and more. And sure, you're going to like this and you're going to and everything's going to be fantastic. This is going to be fantastic. Sometimes you don't like it, that one, this style or whatever, the finish, whatever, don't agree with it. And so they don't jump out. But you got to, I reached the point of, instead of just grabbing it, oh, there's that one, there's this limited edition thing. There's this finish or this plays. Yeah, I mean, after a while, you lose. Each one is a fantastic thing. My purpose for buying an instrument is to play it. It's not to have it as a showpiece, an adornment, or anything like that. Is to use it. And I mean, I'm not out gigging and stuff like that. Those days are done as far as playing out. But I enjoy it for everything with it, and I want to enjoy it, and don't want to be lost in the clutter and have things gone. And that's the reason, like we talk about having the guitars where I have them where I can see them. They're accessible. I keep them in the humidified, not for the acoustics that are in there, but for the necks. So the necks stay stable.
Yeah.
And so the tuning, so I can just grab it. I don't have to faff with tuning. I can just make a little adjustment. The truss rods basically stay the same. I don't have to fool around because in our climate here, things dry up pretty well.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the desert here. It's not very friendly to wood in the desert. It's
so
great if you're a rock.
Yeah.
Not so much if you're a tree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I keep it in the humidified so that it's accessible, and when I have the whim, and I'm fortunate enough that I can control, and I do control my time to have that whim.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice valve.
Yeah. This space is normally reserved for brands who make stories like this possible, like the Dario and the Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop. If your company belongs in this conversation, let's talk. We partner with brands who value craft, culture, and the quiet power of a well-placed idea.
And so that's where I've reduced everything down to that, so I can enjoy the elements and and share it if someone wants to share it. But I don't want to have just the clutter. And the same thing, I don't want to have too much. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Yeah, can be, but every person defines that for themselves, and so it's. You talked about definitions and how you're not comfortable with being defined. I think that defined is probably very closely related to confined for you psychologically.
Yes,
right.
Very much so.
It's interesting because I had a gathering of these unique world-class guitar makers to discuss a particular topic in a symposium a few months ago, and the first thing I did was to define the topic, pull out the Oxford definition of the terms. So, but before we do that, we're going to define one other word, and that's definition. And so I actually pulled out the Oxford Dictionary definition of definition. And the definition of definition is to bind.
Yeah.
It is to bind it and to lay out sort of parameters and box it in.
Oh, do I hate that?
And the guitar makers in the room were all a little squidgy. Like, do we have to? Like, do we like? These are white space thinkers. They hate being boxed in.
Oh.
But if we're serious about this topic, we have to define it. We have to understand that defining means we are going to limit it. By definition of definition, we are going to limit and bind this.
Right.
So it's not free floating. It's not in the ether. It's not untethered. It is tethered to this definition. And so, I think that what is interesting in the way you were talking about that, and you brought up the question as to what is a collection? When does it become a collection? Is it 2? Is it 4? Or what is it? And I think that my thoughts during that moment were, I think it becomes a collection when you can define it as such, when it becomes apparent that I can describe that there is something happening here. There's a body of of work. There's something that is definable, that is separate from its environment and could be understood as such. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And to me, when I see that in front of me, I immediately want to stop and get away from that. So, so if I define, I've now got a collection of this. I've defined like that. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to move away from that. I don't want to have that. I don't want to be attached to that connotation.
And are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way. If I got to a point where I said, okay, I now have a collection, I'm going to stop. Because let me put it this way. I may not stop. It'll be my instinct and my first reaction. Okay, yeah. I'm going to stop. That's my first emotional reaction.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop collecting this. Because I don't want to be defined.
Yeah,
I don't want to be attached.
So I think that's a nonconformist sort of impulse, right? And I'm the same way. I can tell you. I remember I was a big fan of Guns N' Roses when Appetite for Destruction came out, and nobody really knew about it.
Absolutely.
But when Guns N' Roses became the superstar that everyone knew, I was a lot less interested.
Okay,
and I recognize that's stupid of me.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
But I know it to be true.
Yes. Absolutely. Again, that's why I added in there my emotional reaction to that. So then I got to step back because I don't want to forget the reason why I got to that point.
Yeah.
Right. And so then I'll evaluate why did I get to that point? Was it just compulsion? Was it just to acquire these elements? And because you got one A, now you're going to add another and this and that. Is there a reason why? And if the reason why is because I enjoy it, or if there's, it serves its purpose, it's serving a purpose or whatever, as opposed to just being an element to display or own. Then if I could evaluate that, then I can say, okay, now I'm content with this, and now I'm just going to be wary of adding to it and all. And so, and then I'm going to ask myself more questions and think about it more deeply if I'm going to add another one of those. And so, the same way where
it's just discernment. You're just being discerning about your
So
collection.
now all of a sudden, so I put some parameters, added some parameters to that, where before was the experience and the emotional aspect, because you talk about meeting. To me, it's so much more valuable and enjoyable when you actually can know who the creator is, the maker. And so me, I'm not a corporate person. I can't deal. And I like to go straight to the source. I like to, so when I work with businesses and whatnot, I like to go to the top. Whoever is in the top that you can sometimes, and if it's a corporate situation, but whatever, I want to know and have a relationship with the ultimate aspect of that, because I think it just makes it you understand what's going on better, and they can also control their side of whatever better, right? If they have other people with them, whatever, but there's an understanding.
Yeah, a company is a dynamic system. You can't understand it by getting to know a cog. You have to know the machine, not the cog.
It's direct. I said, I like to, when I do I grew up through art as a kid. My father was a graphic artist for trade and business, and my aunt, his sister, she instilled so much into me as far as art and music, and there's and literature and everything else. She really was just so deep in that. But she would take me down to the city, down in New York City. We go to the shows and go to the museums and everything else. And anyway, so I grew up with art, and I thought I was good, and I went to school and I did independent studies through art, set up my own program. Like in my senior year, I was basically just in the art room, just I set up my own schedules and painting. I was doing all kinds of things. And then when I was in college, when I was doing renderings, I was constantly doing art and stuff. And then, with my relationship with my father, he would criticize, critique is really, whatever. And so I grew up knowing about critique, right? And critique is, some people take it as criticism, which is,
well, it is
by
the proper
definition,
word, but
it's the same word, but they take it as a negative, right? They take it as being someone giving him negative comments about it, and so it's basically even if they are negative comments, they are comments, and so it's what you do with those, right?
Well, it's intent, right?
Right. Criticism has a negative connotation to it, though.
Yeah, but, there's murder and there's manslaughter. There's in the result, someone is dead. But did you intend to or not? And with critique, did you intend to? Was the critique insightful that helped someone come to a higher level, or were you just trying to take them apart and drag them down? There's a difference, but the word is the same.
Okay, so whatever the input was given to you, in your critique/criticism, there's always no matter in any discussion, in any. In any aspect of, if you're watching a program, you're watching an interview, you're listening to a podcast, anything. It could be subjects that you have totally no relationship with, no understanding of, or no liking of, and whatever. There's always a nugget in there, at least a nugget, right? So you may not like the whole thing. It could be something you really enjoy, but you didn't enjoy it. But there's always a comment. There's always something in there. Like in your last one with Hoover, at the end, he thought he pulled a couple of nuggets out of your conversation out of that at the end. But the point is that you take the criticism, the critique, and then it's your choice to listen or hear it, but you choose what you want to listen to and what you want to take from it, and so you use that, and I did that. So he and I were so similar that it's like two magnets, the same, but we were on the polarities were not letting them join, right?
Okay.
There was this push, and so I grew up with this push. But it was to me it was like a drive. I wasn't trying. I've never, even to this day, try to impress somebody. They got to accept whatever I'm giving. I'm going to give you my best, my ability, and like that. But I'm not.
Do you really believe that?
I do, because I'm not trying to impress. And achieve. I'm trying to succeed in what the task chosen, right?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, and there's a level of disagreeableness which most people in leadership and most people who are going to achieve something, entrepreneurs, all have to have a high level of disagreeableness. Doesn't mean that you're obstinate or a jerk, but it means that you're okay with disagreeing with someone, and our relationship's not over. We're not angry. We just don't agree, and you're okay with expressing the fact that you don't agree.
Right. But what I'm getting at is, that was instilled growing up.
Yeah, sorry, but the part that I wanted to push on that just a little bit for a second here is that we still constantly negotiate our relationships between each other, and I do think you try and impress people. I think that I have to try and impress people, and I'm not conscious of it. I don't. But what I think is probably maybe more accurate or more fair to say, because you're a very kind and generous person as well, is that you're not willing to compromise your standards to impress someone. And that's different.
That's true.
Right? So there's people who will say anything they need to do to make a positive impression in the moment, right? And you probably have very little respect for that when you see that happening, right? As do I, to be honest. We in our culture we call it a kiss ass,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still think it's most truthful to recognize that we are constantly negotiating, constantly thinking about the next thing we're going to say, even when we're not so conscious of it, to come together without confrontation, but in a way, how can we align ourselves? How can we align, and get along?
Okay.
And you're very easy to get along with. And therefore, I don't accept your cause that you don't try to impress people. I do accept the fact that you will remain true to your standards and you won't compromise them in trying to impress someone.
Okay, so let me see if I can say this another way then. So, sure, I care about what someone thinks about if I've, whatever it is. If it's in my business, as far as design, I don't think so. I don't want to say something I don't really believe. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to do my best effort based upon my abilities, my experience, and what is it I'm trying to do. I want people, so if I'm playing music and I'm playing in front of people, I'm going to, the last times I was playing with a friend of ours who's deceased now. This is during the coffee shop era, so we were doing all the acoustic stuff. And then that was the one that was like through everything I wrote. I just did instrumentals. He did his thing, and so I would do mine, we'd trade off. I'd do my set, he would do his set of stuff, and I would do my set. But it was my music. I didn't do nothing that was anybody else's. And did to the best. And sure, I want everybody to enjoy it, right? I'm enjoying it, and I want to share it, and I'm sharing it. And whether or not, but if you don't like it, I don't care. Because
you're okay with someone else
well, it's not that I don't
it.
care. Okay, that's a strong term. I'm okay with you not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because everybody has different tastes and different, and I may not have. Maybe I'm not as melodic as some others, or whatever's going on there. So but I would judge the reaction. And then I would take that and say, okay, if I'm not getting a reaction, then, out of many people, then it's not, it must be something that I'm doing versus, okay, so what is, and so coming back to all of this was this critique.
This critiquing that you grew up with
is understanding
of critique.
What you take away from it and then what you discard. Right? So what is it that is going to help you move forward in either finishing this one thing that you're doing that you're getting a critique on or in your next one? And so it's all of these building blocks that you, and that's the, kind of the definition of insane or idiot or whatever, in the sense, repeat thinking you're going to get the same result.
You're doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result.
Expecting a different result. So if you keep making the same errors or just techniques or whatever, you're going to get potentially the same results. But if you're looking to improve, quote unquote improve, right? Because especially when you deal with art, it's not improving. It's what you think is maybe not a better, but a more pleasing product.
You are improving. You're adjusting your predictions to come to the outcome which you desire.
Right.
And that is an improvement for yourself.
So maybe it picks up a wider thing. So I learned this shell, this of knowing that that criticism, comments that you get throughout life.
Yeah.
You
get to choose.
You can choose.
That's the thing, right?
Which one has value?
Do I internalize that?
Right.
Do I learn from it?
Exactly.
Do I discard it? And that's all relevant to what your current goal is yourself,
and
right?
being honest with yourself.
That's right.
To recognize that they're correct.
Yeah.
In something that that needs to be adjusted, that you may hold strong to. I was more stubborn a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then you find that you don't get the success so much when you just hold true to something.
Yeah.
Because you want to maintain that.
Yeah.
Be damned type of thing.
Which you can do if you don't have to feed yourself. But if you're an artist who has to feed yourself,
that's
then you have to find. There's a new term I think I'll coin is you have to become conformable.
Right.
You conform just enough.
Right. So then
to make yourself
going through the future. Yeah. So like in today's world in business, let's say, so for architecture, there's I do retail and residential. I do, like I said before. I don't know if we said, but we talked about. I grew up through the architecture.
Yes.
By being hands-on. I'm a very hands-on person.
Yeah.
And I like to be involved in things.
Before the camera was rolling, you and I were discussing that you grew up during a period of drafting. You became an architect when you drafted, and you were in a small firm, and you had to do basically everything, the civil engineering, the drafting, all of it except for the actual electrical diagrams.
Right.
And so.
Exactly. So you knew the project in and out.
Yeah.
And then so when you went out in construction,
certainly,
you're able to answer the questions if there's questions and adjustments in the field during the build and all. Where in today's world, everybody seems to rely.
They're specialized.
Well, they rely on the tools.
Yeah.
So they're shackled by the tools and the softwares.
Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the things I learned by hand, it's so many things are better created when you understand the fundamentals, right? Anything, right? But if you just jump in with power tools and so on and build something, but if you just had a handsaw, you would understand that maybe cutting this is the right way versus the other way, and so on and so forth to get there. But not knowing those, you don't know these shortcuts or the situations when those things aren't available. And then, but you have to get the product out.
Right.
Right? And so what do you do?
Between knowledge and understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah. So knowing the fundamentals and knowing and understanding, because then you find resources to move it forward.
Yeah.
And so coming through all of that, I have the blessing to have all of this expansion. But now there's so many specialists that I'm able to prepare them with everything. And in my process, I like to front load. So I essentially, and so I worked for firms until 2001, 2002, and then decided to go out on my own. No plan. no plan at all. Just do it. And that was in July.
Of 2001?
So this will be 25 years. So
Yeah.
we just hit, so 2002.
Yeah.
Or no, not 25, anyway.
There's a defining moment, and I'll help you narrow it in. Was it before 9/11 or after? Did that help you?
That was 2001, correct?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Okay, because July 2001 is when I ended up with a music store, and I know within a couple of months, 9/11 happened.
Okay.
And it was a moment that helps me understand the timeline. But
So coming back to it though, is I went got on my own, and then had an office, had staff, and everything, and when I had left, I built up a reputation of being hands-on, being and thorough. And when I worked in the firms, the guys I had, no one worked overtime. We got done on time like that. And I used to get criticism for the fact that how come my guys aren't working like all the other guys and everything. Well, I said, well, the jobs are getting all done and everything. And everything. We're managing it.
we're efficient.
Yeah, and the clients, and I'm dealing direct with
Yeah.
the clients, not through the bosses,
Yeah.
and everything. And so I didn't tell them I was leaving and all, because to me you don't do that. You don't set up your business while you're in another business.
I agree. Yeah.
That was my philosophy, right? I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to do it when it's my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all. And this firm had tried to keep me, and we negotiated for like 6-8 months. It was long going through, and they finally gave me everything I wanted. And basically, I said, okay. And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, that's not what I want. And all, sorry, thank you, everything else, and all. But I think they were a little perturbed.
Well, sure.
Which,
they're
understandably so.
Yeah.
And so I said that, okay, now that officially I'm going to be leaving, I gave them 2 months notice so that we could prepare the projects, that are pending and so on and so forth. And bottom line was that soon as I had said that, they went and notified the clients. I'm like, whatever. But then the thing that happened was they contacted me to see if could do anything with them.
Right.
But I said, hey, I can't talk to you right now. We'll wait till after and all. And so that was all great. So I had no plan, but this was something that we decided we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so that was like, whew, right? Because so all of a sudden it's coming right now. How do you set up with have one income, two, and then 2 months later her company lays off. So it's down to one for a bit, but then she landed on her feet like right away.
Yeah.
So, but I don't remember how we got to this point.
Well, we're talking, I think, about agreeableness and about conforming.
Yeah.
Finding your way.
Yeah. So I think that, so then when you do things, you don't do them to me, I try to satisfy the situation. If it's athletic, if it's musical, if it's whatever, business, you want to reach the goal. But you don't, if I'm going to be successful to the best of my ability to provide for that. And if you don't like it, that's your thing. But then I'm gonna make an adjustment if I need to, whatever, to satisfy. What is it that you don't like? Like that. But if it's just something I don't like, well, okay, fine. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, yeah. And this brings us back to, I'm afraid to call it your collection now because
that's why we're here.
Because you've already expressed that once you call it a collection, maybe you're done.
Well,
and that's okay. But there's insight there that I appreciate because part of this conversation, and the reason I asked you to have the conversation is I'm professionally curious and I'm exploring why people end up with these collections, and I'm a little bit hesitant to use the term "end up," but I think it's accurate actually, because I think people don't have the intention. Nobody says I'm going to collect.
See, I like that much better.
X. My life sort of led in this direction, and I was interested, and I became more interested, and I became more interested, and I explored this area. And you may, just like Adriano, eventually say, I've explored this area and I'm moving on to something else. Like we see many artists, it's the proliferation of someone like Pablo Picasso, who produced more works, something like 3 works, is it a day or a week or something? It's insane, the amount of output he had. But if you look at his work when he's a young man, it looks basically like classical oil painting, and then eventually to his Cubist stuff and everything sort of in between, from his sculptures and so on and so forth. That's just somebody exploring a different idea, and music is the same way. All art forms are, a genre of music are a group of people exploring collectively an idea, a concept. What happens when we go in this direction and we work within this time signature or this group or this feel? We call an entire genre of music swing music. Well, as it may not be obvious to someone who's not a musician, but if you're a musician, you understand that swing is a feel. And so we're working within a feel of music, and everything that feels that way is the expression of swing music. And if it doesn't, you can't call it swing, and then there's a point where it's like, okay, well, we've danced that way for a long time, and let's try, this straight 4 backbeat. Wow, that feels different than this 3/4 swing that's always happening so much for decades already. And then straight up 4 on the floor sort of took over, for a period, and we called that rock music, and so on and so forth. And so,
as a guitar builder and a player, you have a sense for when something's working right. That's why so many of the world's best trust D'Addario. Unmatched tone, perfect intonation, and strings made to the tightest tolerances in the industry. That reputation is no accident. It's the result of 400 years of being obsessed with quality and innovation. D'Addario, when you know, you know.
I think it's interesting to sort of look at this as an exploration, as an investment of curiosity into a particular era and time in your life, and when it converges with a particular artist's life, whether they're dead or alive, you like a particular period of that. And I think that's thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. And one of the things I'd like to comment on about your collection, dare I say, is I really love the fact that you play them and see them as something that is intended to interact with. You showed me your first Ergon guitar earlier, and it's very clear. It's not played a little bit. It is worn away in areas through the finish and such, and you can tell a little bit about the techniques in which you play, because you can see where you engage with your guitar. And for me, it's the same thing. My first sort of boutique guitar. There's a German maker named Nick Huber that I bought his first guitar in North America, and I played that guitar all over the world. And that guitar had all sorts of dings and dents all over it, and because I'm a performative musician, I've taken that guitar and kicked it and whirled it around, and there's marks on the back of the neck, and I know that's where the microphone came off and hit it, because I was doing something that I thought was cool in the moment. And I'm okay with it. It's a battle wound, it's a scar, and it shows a bit of the history.
Sure.
But there's this impression that these boutique guitars are not tools. There's this impression that these are collector items that are meant to be, put on a wall like a painting or a sculpture is, and they can be that, and that's a part of it. There's a part of it engaging in that way, but the one of the things that I enjoy the most is picking up an instrument that causes me to do something that I didn't otherwise do.
Yeah.
Because it responds in a way that nothing else I have responds. And that's stimulating for me, the novelty. I'm like, oh, and it takes me down a direction. And I create new music because of that new stimulus. Yeah, there's new songs waiting inside of there because it's that conversation back and forth between me and the musical instrument.
Yeah.
And I can see that you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I can see it and hear it in your conversation. So it's a very valid part of the conversation, and I'm glad that we shared it together.
Thank you.
Lou, thank you for having me in your home
Absolutely.
and for being willing to have this conversation. And I'm very happy to have this. I historically I started to go back and find a picture from a period in time, and not so long ago I was flipping through trying to find something, and I saw a picture of you and Susan in rainbow guitars holding a guitar with a big smile on your face of a guitar.
Oh, the well, yeah, that was incredible. I remember I remember when we picked up, but then in the other room is where the amp was, and I remember plugging in, and it was on the neck pickup at the time, and then I switched it to the treble pickup, and everybody there was around turned their heads, because it was strong, and the sound, and everybody's like, "What was that?" And playing, and it's like, and all of a sudden they had people. There was just this draw all of a sudden to it, but it was like no one. I was walking. I wasn't the only one just walking by because I don't know if it's because it was so unique compared. I mean, a lot of the craftsmen on the electric aspects do a version of traditional recognition,
the known
variables, and either just doing a highly crafted aspect of finishes, colors, or whatever material, or abstracting it, but still honoring that tradition and whatever they're following. And this one just went just totally, and at the same time that we both looked at it and we were like the Blob.
Yes.
And for that sculpture that we have, and there's all of those things. There's those characters and those stories. Yeah. And there's so many in there, and one of our favorite moments of your boutique guitar show at the NAMM that we've had over the years, and we enjoy all of them. There was I think he was Danish. He might have been Norwegian. Young guy, was in the middle of the row and about the middle way, and he was a school teacher. And he had had resin in the body, and he had like sunken cubes in it. Do you remember that one?
He's Dutch.
He's Dutch. Okay.
It's Jort from Red Layer.
Yeah.
Guitars.
He was. Susan and I, we talked with him, and he was telling us about his school and the classes.
So he taught like CNC and CAD at a university. Yeah. So he's not like a primary school teacher.
Right.
He's teaching high level machine and craftsmanship.
But he's talking about it with his students and everything else.
Yeah.
And we were just having like the greatest conversation and getting to know it. And that's the one thing about your shows, on the tour, you don't get that opportunity. You get
talk to the guitar maker.
Exactly. You get the introduction and maybe a connection down the road or whatever. As I ended up having with Adriano. Yeah. But when you're there,
I'm the gallerist with the artwork, but not the artist.
Exactly. It's so much more when you actually get to meet the person who has given you this gift.
Yeah.
Right? or just to understand the heart of what they're doing
Yeah.
and what their efforts are. You may not even like what they're doing. To me that it was really cool and everything like that, but it was not something I would want at all. But it still doesn't make any shortcoming to it all. But the connection, but it was more of that than anything else. And that's what really keeps most of this. What I have is basically curating it down.
Yeah.
I culled it down to the point where, okay, where's the ones, okay, now I can't really part with this. I've gotten to that where these don't part, it's okay, now if I'm going to add to it, it's got to have something.
Yeah.
So that now the discernment has come in.
Yeah. Might I suggest, rather than simply culling, and I think culling is a good term, but it's not just being culled, it's being distilled.
Okay.
It's being concentrated into just the most valuable sort of pieces for your own reasons.
Sure. And I've given away some to, especially, some young people, kids are in bands and this and that.
Yeah.
And said, here, just take this and give them some equipment. Because when you see the passion and you see that, man, oh man, you just want that to you just want to fuel those flames.
Yeah.
And all as best you can. And that's really what I enjoy so much. That's where I'm at now. I'm not going to give these away, but we get to the point where, okay, what's going to happen with these at some point? But I'm not worried about that now.
Yeah, I mean, that's been an interesting part of the conversation too, is sort of, because those instruments are made of stronger stuff than we are, they're going to outlive us all, right? So we own them, but we own them for a time. Eventually, someone else is going to own them. Even if you never sell them, you will cease to be before they will. And so 400 years from now, those guitars, if nothing, if they're not caught in a fire or something of the sort, they're going to be around. And what does that look like? And that sort of conversation of legacy and succession, and do they just go out to the world? Do we take the time to document those stories? Because currently we're not thinking about the provenance of an instrument, but when that instrument is 100 or 400 years old, people will care about the provenance of that instrument. They'll care that Lou Vergne owned this guitar first.
Right.
That he was the first one to buy it, and where he got it and under what conditions, right? And were any modifications made from it? You talk about one of the guitars where you changed out pickups and such, right? Those are things when you're a vintage collector or when you're the curator of a museum, you wish you knew that.
This is true.
Right? And
Very true.
So when you start to think about, okay, I care about this. Do I care about it in the moment? Do I care about it for my lifetime? Do I care about it beyond my lifetime? And then what would I do to make sure that happens? And then you start to think about, well, you keep yours in a controlled environment already because you live in the desert, and that's just the right thing to do. But then secondly, the quality of the case. Like, if that instrument at some point in time is going to be transported by someone else,
absolutely.
Is it ready to arrive at the end of the journey unharmed? And do you keep little aspects that you got along with it? So the most valuable vintage instruments still have what we call colloquially the case candy that came with it from the companies.
Every single guitar, every single guitar I've ever owned that I purchased, I always, whatever the receipts, tags, so on and so forth, just I've kept in the case and all. So if I switch out...
In like an acid-free sort of sealed little...
Well, I don't know if it's acid-free, but it would be whatever its environment was.
Yes.
And then if I had switched a component, I would take that original component and put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the case so that it was there. Or I have little bins and stuff like that where when I've switched out parts, like I have the ones that there's a mongrel, but I have the original parts in a bag labeled up. So I keep all of that stuff whenever that stuff. So that original stuff that collectors of vintage stuff. Like, yes, I preserve all of that, and since I have them out of the case, the cases are like brand new, and so are those things. And then I do keep a listing I do like a spreadsheet of how I set them up, because sometimes I'll go back and I'll change it, or whatever, or if I want to match something, I'll do a spec on it, and I set them up the way I want to set them up, so they're pretty well consistent. But if there's other parameters, I'll list those. So I do try to keep that, and I keep a spreadsheet of that because for insurance purposes too as well. So I have all of that, and it has the the purchase values at the time, and so there is a record for that. And I haven't thought about it for someone else down the road or whatever. But when I sold the ones I've sold, I've given that stuff with it. So yeah, it's because I appreciate when you get a used piece, a vintage piece, used/vintage, that there's somebody else had this. So what's is there a documented history for that? It adds to this story.
It shows a level of care. It shows that, well, if they cared enough to keep those things in nice condition, it shows that the instrument was probably also reasonably cared for.
Yeah.
Well,
it's the other thing too, right? If you go into a used store and you see two guitars similar, one's beat up, scratched up and whatever, and the other one is pretty darn, let's say mint, whichever. A lot of people will probably go for the one in great condition. Oh, I got something, nice. The other one's not relic. But you're gonna know. But when you look at those two, you're gonna know that the one that's beat up and wrecked is a good guitar because somebody was playing that thing a lot and all. And they may not have taken care of it the way you want to take care of it, whatnot, but that it was serving a purpose well.
Yeah.
And then you take a look at it. It may just be a junked thing, but it's kind of like, when people look at guitars, what's the first thing they usually do?
When they look at the guitar?
When they go look at a guitar and then they want to take a look at it, what do you think the first thing they do?
Well, I mean, if they're just attracted to guitar in the first place, it fits a narrative of some sort for them, a style of some sort, or whatever it is they're interested in.
Yeah, well, sight's the first thing.
After, the sight is the first thing to look at it. The second thing from there is they're going to pick it up, they're going to wrap their hand around the neck.
The neck.
And see if the neck feels
exactly.
Right.
If the neck isn't...
The next stop is to hit a string, or a chord.
To me, it's the neck.
Yeah.
Right? And if the neck doesn't feel right, that's going to be the thing that you're going to be, besides the strings, but you're holding the neck all the time. You may do something different with the strings, whatever, and if it's doesn't feel right, it's never going to feel right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's you get the stories about people shaving them down.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
That's another thing.
That terrifies most guitar players.
Yeah, but the point is that the first thing you feel, and that goes right back to Adriano's.
Yeah.
His thing, to me, the first impression and the impressions for all of them is not the aesthetic, it's not the sound, it's the tactile aspect of it. To me, that's the one thing I appreciate the most out of his instruments is the tactileness of it, because he doesn't use lacquers and stuff like that. So, but the Lisboa that was an immediate tactile. I mean, that was like, there was a great shape, but the wood, it just felt natural. And that's, I say, is his signature is that it's because of his shapes, everything, or at the time and everything, he's gone to more. You see, the front face is satisfying more people traditionally, and the back sides are where he's making statements more. In my opinion.
Okay.
And he's still all great, but to me, that era of the sculptures and everything else, looking like the back of a person, and the muscle and everything, that made not like but those sensations, that naturalness, is what really set the foundation, and.
Extracted for you.
Yeah. But so, with the other things, the provenance and everything, to know that is, if you can, that's fantastic, because it just adds to the wealth, the inner wealth.
Yeah.
If you appreciate that or not.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
You've been listening to Life with Strings Attached. If today's conversation meant something to you, consider passing it on. These stories find their place through the people who share them. A new episode comes out every Friday, right here, wherever you're listening. I'm Jamie Gale, and thanks for listening to Life with Strings Attached.